No.
GG!
Okay, and Heart of the Swarm, is it going to be released why the artifacts were created? Like originally by the Zonaga, or is it, there's been a lot of discussion?
You'll have to wait and see for that. Those kinds of things we're not ready to announce yet, right? Like, for us, the story is a big part of the fun, right? And giving away the story is ultimately just giving spoilers to our fans, which we don't think helps them have more fun. So we're not going to talk. I mean, you've seen what you've seen. Ask any questions you want. I'll probably give you the same answers. But yeah, just so you know, we're not going to talk about what you learn or don't learn about artifacts or whatever. All right, to wait and see.
Or on that, well, similar line of thought, are the Cerebrits getting completely retconned out? Are we going to see the Cerebrits in this at all? Or
I don't think you'll see the Cerebrits.
dang, okay.
Kerrigan's going a different way with this one.
Why didn't you kill off Tassadar? And why did he come out of nowhere?
You need Brian?
Why did you do that?
I don't know. Are you talking about in Brood War? Are you talking about where he showed up in the Zeratul line?
All of the above.
Okay, I don't know why they did it in Brood War, or not in Brood War, but in the original game. I assume that was for the drama of that moment. For that particular moment in Wings of Liberty, we were, expressing a pretty radical concept to Zeratul. That the Overmind was not what he thought it was, and we needed someone that he would really believe, right? That he would buy into almost immediately, because we did not have a giant cutscene to go there. We did not have a ton of time to get that idea across, and so we thought, who he would buy into would be this character, and it was believable to us. Though maybe not to everybody, but it's believable to us that he could still be out there in one form or another, given the type of being that he was. And so we felt that, his introduction at that moment, whether it be, reality or a vision or whatever, would be something that would immediately allow Zeratul to understand what was going on, and without a lot of backtalk, really, right? Because we didn't want to sit there for 20 minutes while Zeratul said, "Nah, that's not true," right?
Thank you.
In the teaser you showed us this morning, Nova was there, and obviously her and Jim Raynor were trying to get Kerrigan. So does the campaign, how we had to either choose between Tosh and Nova Nova should be dead, I believe?
No, she doesn't die if you don't choose her.
Okay, well Tosh dies. If you do choose Nova, does that option for us not have any effect on the campaign?
Well, remember, your choice for Nova didn't do anything to Nova. So I guess you're asking, is Tosh alive?
Right.
So Tosh, we do have an official version that was on the DVD that described what we think the canon version of those events were. We are looking at the possibility of importing your choices in from Wings, but we haven't figured out, how technically feasible that is for us yet. Either way, I don't know if it had a huge impact. I don't know how much Kerrigan cares about what happened to Tosh. But the only one that would matter is, what happened. Was the surface of was the space platform destroyed over Char, or were the Nidus networks flooded with lava? That would obviously have an impact on the events on Char. Even that's not a huge impact. It's not like a dead character or not. But we're looking at that right now.
That being said, can we figure there'll be more kind of choice events like that in the Heart of the Swarm campaign?
Maybe, we don't know. We are doing a different amount of content and different kinds of content for this game. So we're looking to see, sort of what makes sense for that. We'd love doing those choices. They felt really cool. At the same time, we get complaints from players that they couldn't really see the whole game that easily. So I'm not sure that was perfect, but it was cool. And I don't know what we're going to do yet for Heart of the Swarm.
How long was the production cycle for Heart of the Swarm?
We will launch on. I've said some. Yeah, it's ongoing. I've said some numbers in the past which are totally guesses, and I caveated them at the time, saying that they're guesses. It's long. We, for example, didn't even really get started in earnest on Heart of the Swarm until really the new year, until 2011. We of course had concepts as we were going through Wings of Liberty and the overarching story, but largely we launched Wings of Liberty, did a bunch of patches to make sure things were right for the community, and then went right into BlizzCon, which was in late October, and had fallout of all that. So we were focusing a lot on mods and all that and figuring out what we wanted. Some work started before the end of the year, but it really started in earnest in the new year. So as an example of how difficult it really is to say how long the production is of this, that's just something. So we're not going to give it away a date, though, here. Sorry.
Can you give us a way how long it will be? How many campaign missions?
Yeah, we're looking at just, around 20, maybe a little bit more, but something like that.
Okay.
It is going to have that same effect that we saw in, the Frozen Throne versus Reign of Chaos. I don't know if you remember those, but for example, we feel like we delivered very fully featured expansions, which we feel like this is as well. But we did drop in Brood War and in the Frozen Throne versus Reign of Chaos down to what seemed reasonable. And part of it is also lesson learning and making sure we're clean and clear in what this campaign needs to do with Kerrigan.
All right. And in terms of achievements, how is that going to tie in? I know that you guys are going for a more unified BattleNet.
You got a good design for us on that one? That's something.
Is it going to tie into Diablo 3 achievements in the future maybe as well, or just StarCraft achievements in general, or is it going to be BattleNet achievements?
We're talking about
Maybe.
a lot of that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We sort of talked about a Blizzard account
Yes.
level achievements, but we don't know the timetable on that. I haven't seen a mock-up. Right? It's just in discussions.
In Wings of Liberty, players follow the Terran units from the original StarCraft. Are there any plans to bring back the Defiler and the Devourer to single player?
Like,
The Defiler, I could see. I don't know for sure. We haven't gotten through the whole campaign to know which units are appropriate or not. The Defiler, I could see. I don't know if the Devourer is cool enough. Mostly the air-to-air units don't tend to have that much use in a lot of the campaign missions. But if we can find a spot for them, it would certainly make sense. I think the artist in some art is quite pretty for him too. Actually, so we could use him.
The Wings of Liberty has almost been out a year, 10 months or so.
Uh-huh.
Looking back and trying to develop Heart of the Swarm, what have you learned from the community and reviews and stuff like that, and kind of how are you applying that to Heart of the Swarm?
Well, I
We
think
can all do that. You want to talk about online now? Seriously, no?
We learned a lot of stuff. I mean, you guys are the most vocal, and everyone who frequents your sites are the most vocal people, our most important resource in that regard.
We
so.
apologize, by the way, ahead of time. Sorry.
So how many times we've done them crying?
It's a lot.
Even the troll ones. So no, absolutely. We literally drive what we're going to put out in a patch based on what you guys are saying. So if the community is really asking for something, that can totally influence what we do going forward.
So I'm obligated to ask then, is there going to be any solution for LAN in the future? I know it's a multiplayer question, but is it going to be like a restart in multiplayer? And I know that's not single player related.
We don't have any intentions to do anything like that right now. We are listening to that point, but I wanted to say, we were talking about lessons learned. We learned a lot on all fronts. Online, one of the things I would say is keep it simple. We've behind the scenes, and you guys don't get to see a lot of this, the online maintenance and service that surrounds StarCraft 2 is so much more complex than what we've had in the past, and so it doesn't come out that way necessarily in what the player sees, but it's a lot harder running the service. So we're trying to make sure that we streamline where we can as far as that's concerned. Some of the things that lessons learned. I was going to have you speak to some of this, but
Well, I mean, one example is maybe on the custom game side. Like we delivered something that we thought was really good, and then obviously we knew that there was some issues there. And after we got it out, we see, hey, you know what? There's a lot of stuff we can do here to make this even better. And so that's something that we learned from the past that we want to improve going forward. So, I mean, you can go down the laundry list of things that we learned. Some things that were awesome, and other things that weren't that great. And so we'll take the things that were awesome and keep doing those things, and the ones that aren't that great, we'll improve them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if David, you want to comment on multiplayer at all, but that's been definitely an evolution. Right?
Yeah, on the multiplayer side, we had ideas on how units and strategies will work, and actually launching the game, we figured out not everything worked exactly as planned. There were new strategies that came out.
Or even close, maybe.
Holy shit! Back to the drawing board. Yeah.
Yeah. And the different roles of the units didn't work as well as we intended, but on the flip side, sometimes, for the Immortal, for example, the core kit of that unit was to be meat shield, focused mostly on the hardened shield mechanic, but in fact, what actually worked was the burst damage component of the unit, stuff like that. So we're definitely going to use stuff like that into creating part of the
Yeah,
story.
sure we take those lessons.
Totally.
Campaign-wise, I've been saying this in some of the press I've been doing over here. There's, I think you guys have hit it out of the park as far as building missions that are based on the core root mechanics of StarCraft 2, the RTS. You gather minerals, you construct bases, you make units. But we also tried to include these mechanics also that were on top of that, things like lava and some of the other mechanics of Wings. And there were definitely some things we could see through achievements where people tended to if they didn't complete the campaign, where were they leaving? And we'd see certain missions, and I don't even know the exact ones off the top of my head right now. I don't know if we want to mention that, though.
I've already told
We can't remember.
I already told
No,
you.
you don't
No, I've
remember.
already told you.
But
It's already
anyway,
out there.
we're looking at those sorts of times where those happen and take those lessons learned into Heart of the Swarm, make it clean, make those mechanics like. Hopefully, do you guys get an opportunity to play the build as well? Yeah, to look at things like the flash freeze effect, where it's simple enough you get it, but you understand now you can push based on timing. That's different than just the base mechanic, and have it work and not be so complex that you're like, I don't get this game mechanic. I need to not play anymore.
From the campaign side, like one of the things we got from story mode quite a bit was, it was really kind of fun to have those 4 sets for the Hyperion, but at the same time it got a little repetitive from time to time. Yeah, it's the cantina, I've been there. And at the same time we also got comments like, I forgot to look at the news like 6 times because I went from the armory to the mission launch area and I just forgot. So we're definitely trying to reduce the number of sets so we get down to just the minimum number so it's easier to remember where to go. But also we want to get you down to the surface of the planet so it's changing behind there, both from mission to mission, but also when you're going from world to world. So you get to see like a little bit closer. Like we loved what we did with Char. We got to Char and Wings of Liberty. Like, oh yeah, now we're cooking. Right now I'm on the surface of Char and there's this Viking and he's shooting stuff and it's cool. But we felt through the whole course of Wings we didn't do that nearly enough, and so we're trying to get more of those sensibilities into the story experience.
So we're going to be able to explore the innards of a Leviathan?
Well, yeah, the evolution chamber's inside the Leviathan, and
Nice.
you're in the Leviathan actually on the surface.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
Wet and drippy cave. It's not just some random wet and drippy cave. That's actually, she's landed the Leviathan on the surface.
Damn it! I didn't know we were confirming that, so I was like, I cannot confirm or deny if you're in.
Well, he's got to get the scoop then.
Yeah, I mean, there's other things too, like. There's some intention, and we're still working these things out, but to explain what's going on, how does she get there? We have opportunities now with in-game cutscenes, and when I say that, I'm talking about our triggered cutscenes, and to do some things like that. So we'll be exploring ways to let people in on how those work.
Okay.
Just curious, I know for Wings of Liberty you guys decided to go ahead and release multiplayer as a beta first before doing single player. Is there any particular reason why you decided to flip it around in this particular case? You've chosen the demo single player first?
Well, there's a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One is what we had done, right? It's what we actually do. Multiplayer for us on this one's been pretty challenging to get right, as you can imagine, because we already flick something that's reasonably well balanced out there in the wild, and we don't want to mess it up. And so we want to make some additions. We want to try to fix some things, but every time we turn around, we think we've got it figured out. Well, that unit's never going to get used. Somebody's using it and killing somebody in the GSO with it, which is all right, whatever. For us, the other thing too for us is we did lead with Wings in many ways with multiplayer every time we talked about it, right? At the same time, we know very clearly from our fans that many of our fans are coming to us primarily for the solo play experience. And we kind of wanted to reemphasize that with our fans to say, hey, you know what? We know you're out there. We're not trying to not acknowledge you. We know you're out there. We know you're passionate about the solo play experience. We know this is a very important part of the experience. For many of you, it's the most important part of this experience. And so we kind of wanted to lead this one just a little differently to try to get that message out. I don't know that we'll succeed, but that was the thing.
Yeah, I think you can see because it doesn't hit it on the head by saying we did emphasize multi so much that there's this perception that's out there in general about StarCraft. Like, oh, that's that hardcore game. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Unless I have to be a professional gamer, right? That's
right. That's how that plays. How much do I pay to play? I don't even know. Right?
So really, campaign is that area where you can get somebody in and go like, no, really, it's not that, and you can sit down and actually maybe even use just your mouse here if you wanted to. Holy shit! No, that's you can't do that. You can't do that, but it's an opportunity to explore it, and there are moments that aren't just about beating another player down and I totally own people, and the campaign is one of them. So I think getting it out there and then reminding people that those things are there is important to letting people into the bigger picture of StarCraft 2, because ending on eSport and GSL is awesome because it is great. But letting them know that there's actually a fun game there too is important.
I guess I'd also say too, this product is going to be hugely about the story experience, right? Like we're going to add, some new units to multiplayer, sure, but it's not a whole new multiplayer game from bottom up. It's going to be some tweaks and tunings and hopefully some new units, and maybe some units come out, we don't know, but we're going to try to, tune that up and make it really great. But a ton of effort that goes into this particular game is going to be about the story, about these missions, about these characters.
Is there going to be a beta?
Yes.
Is the beta going to be campaign beta or
No.
just multiplayer?
Just
beta?
multiplayer.
How long do you think that will be?
We're still talking about it.
We usually do 3 to 5 months, so we don't know for sure, but you can guess. We'll probably make a similar kind of decision.
Yeah, if I were to guess, we'd go on the smaller side because we know more. It's not
It's not as blind as we were in Moons. Yeah.
Going back a little bit to lessons learned, you recently released, like 2 months ago or 3 months ago, the cooperative version of the map Outbreak.
Yeah.
Have you considered making a cooperative campaign in the future, maybe?
Yes, many times. It's a lot of work for us to get it really right. We don't want to do it sort of half-assed. I wasn't going to say that, but that's exactly right. We don't want to sort of do it part way. We want to do it all the way correctly, and we've talked about it many times and the cost of doing it and how we would get that done. We're very passionate about it. It's a way a lot of us really love to play. We love playing Diablo, World of Warcraft, Left 4 Dead. All of these are great games to play cooperatively, and we think StarCraft would be really fun to play cooperatively as well. We just haven't found the time to really get that right yet.
Coming back to the story aspect a little bit, are we going to see some of those Terran factions come back, like the Protectorate or UED?
Maybe.
Maybe?
Duran.
Okay. Or Duran, yeah, that's a big
Maybe.
question.
How much of the other races
I'll give you a
are
solid
going to be?
maybe for that. Sorry. Go ahead.
How much of the other races are going to be in Heart of the Swarm? Because like the Zerg and Protoss aren't in it that much in Wings of Liberty until the end. So
Right.
how much?
Well, I certainly expect to see quite a bit of the Zerg, right, as she's trying to regather the strength of the Swarm, and you play as them, of course, that aside. The Terrans as well, since she's got kind of an axe to grind with some of the Terrans. I think you can expect to see a lot of them. And we're obviously working to make sure that the Protoss have, as big a limelight in this as we can possibly get. I think we did a reasonably